And everyone, welcome to episode 8 of the D&E podcast, Siblings Talking to Each Other because they're siblings. And I am very excited to have on the channel today my boy and yours, the Omnibus Collector himself, Mr. Ryley Moore. Ryley, why don't you introduce yourself to the people?
Hey, what's going on? I'm Ryley. I have a channel on YouTube called the Omnibus Collector and a Facebook group and all kinds of community and stuff that we talk about comics and all that cool stuff.
Basically anything. We also occasionally actually talk about comics in that group.
Yeah, every once in a while. Usually it's
once in a
about
while. Yeah.
tea kettles and stuff like that.
Oh my God, Emma. Okay. Quick question.
What?
How do you make coffee? In a tea kettle or in the microwave?
I don't drink coffee. I only drink water. Actually, I eat coffee ice cream, and usually I put it in the microwave for a couple of seconds to make it melty.
I'm sorry. No, I said coffee, didn't I? I meant tea. How do you drink tea?
I don't drink tea. I only drink water.
Dang it.
Though I make tea for my friends, and I always use the microwave because it's much faster.
Yes.
And I do it at college, so there's no stove.
Tea microwave. Yes.
Sorry.
Oh, awesome.
It's the American way.
Cool. It's the American way. It's convenient. It's not as good, but we settle with it. That's what we do. Today we're going to be talking about a wonderful, wonderful book, Wytches, the novel. I call it a novel. By Scott Snyder, and the artist Jock. Just Jock. That's it. One of the best horror comics, I think it's safe to say.
So good.
It's really good. So why don't we just start off by giving like our overall thoughts on like the book itself. Emma, you are the person who was most recently introduced to this. What'd you like about it?
Yeah, I first read it when I came to visit Des for a week in
last year. That was last
summer of 2019.
I thought you were gonna say, was that 20 years ago? Because it fucking feels like it.
It feels like 20 years ago. Yeah, I was an age very younger than I was now.
Almost exactly a year younger.
Yeah, super long time ago, and Des was like, oh my God, while you're here, we have to talk about this, but you haven't read it yet, but it's fine. So just read it now, and then we'll talk about it. And then I was like, okay. And I read it like all morning because him and his now wife, Jess, were at work. And I was like, I don't mind being alone. I'm going to fucking read the Wytches, and I'm going to read it. And I read it. And then I read the second issue,
that little mini story.
The second half. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God. I was like, I don't even know what to do. And I like immediately told my friend Leo about it because, we're both into the same stuff. So I was like, It's horror, but it's not grotesque.
Yes,
and the
definitely.
grotesque parts are epic. And I'm just like so appreciative of the art style, which is both confusing and feels cancerous, which is really impressive for like the entire issue. Like, it gives off the exact vibe that it's supposed to be giving off.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Well
Jock and Scott Snyder have worked together on a number of things. And Ryley, as you can tell, Ryley actually owns a couple comic books.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah. They've actually worked together on a few things. Their most famous work after this is actually it's a Batman story. It's the second half of Batman the Black Mirror, which is notable because it isn't Bruce Wayne Batman. It's Dick Grayson, who used to be Nightwing, but is now Nightwing, but is now Rick Grayson. It's weird.
Wait, did you say Batman Black Mirror?
Yes,
like
it's called
Batman realizes the horrors that his technology has, and they take over and become Batman.
Oh God, the implications of the society. No, yeah, it's good stuff. Actually, so Ryley, you have read much more Snyder than either of us ever will. How about you give a little bit more context to Wytches in Scott Snyder's like larger repertoire, like what themes it might have in common, how it might stand out, stuff like that.
So I literally just finished rereading it because I hadn't read it since it first came out.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I'm like super fresh now in my mind and stuff.
Awesome. Ooh.
And I think this, like you said, Scott's done so much work, and if I'm to put this in with his, whole repertoire of books, like you were saying, it feels a lot like, when I was reading it this time, I was like, man, this feels a lot like a Stephen King book.
Yes, and actually, Stephen King is quoted on the cover.
And
It really does. That's a
King,
very, very good pairing.
Yeah.
King did help him co-write the first arc of American Vampire.
Yes, I
So
remember that. Yes.
I do think that Snyder takes some inspiration from King specifically in his writing, and that scene right there.
Yes, definitely.
And also it has, I think, a recurring element in a lot of his books is always like stories that have flashbacks to the past. That
Yes.
he did that with his Batman books and stuff,
Very
where
heavily,
it's
yeah,
like
definitely.
you get some sort of revelations in this flashback story that tie into whatever's happening in the current thing. And it's something that happens
Yes.
almost in every single book of his, to the point that people are like, oh, here's that Snyder trope of his.
Yes, definitely.
I
Well,
really appreciate when illustrators and authors and stuff like do the flashbacks properly, because a lot of the times
Yes.
when you're watching like a TV show and stuff and somebody has a flashback, like there's like a sound effect to make it known that it's like a, like, you know, that it's a like a past thing that's happening. But in a book, it's a lot of the times it's very confusing because you're like, is this happening? Has it already happened? And I feel like it's really important to put that in the right spots. I'm sorry, you're both stroking your beard hairs at the
We
same
are, yeah.
time. And I just got totally caught off guard. Sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I really
you're
think
good.
it's important, and it's very fitting to various plots that like go with it. Like when there's flashbacks involved and stuff, there's like, that's just an extra element of trauma, and I really appreciate that, because the story is very deeply about trauma, you know, like you don't know why she moved there, but you know that she moved there because something bad happened. And then you get little flashbacks and you're like, oh, I gotta know what happened. It's freaking me out. And it's
and then you find out and you're like, I kind of wish I could forget what actually happened.
Yeah, like, ooh, that didn't do well in my eyes.
So there's this thing that like I've been trying to sort of like, because I feel like whenever we talk about horror, I get drawn to like cosmic big horror, you know, like Lovecraftian horror. I actually have like an entire Lovecraft thing right over there. And there's this feeling that it evokes in you, and Wytches evokes it, and Scott Snyder evokes it when he's writing about the Court of Owls. Emma, because you don't know, the Court of Owls is this secret society that Batman finds out about in the first of like the main Snyder run. And they've always been there. And so there's all these flashbacks to, oh, this building was built here, this building was built there. And this is the feeling that it evokes in you. And this is the feeling that cosmic horror evokes in you. It's not just that you are fucked. It's that you have always been fucked. Yeah. And all you can do is find out how fucked you really are. And that's what I like about, like, you see, like, at the very beginning of Wytches, there's the woman in the tree, and then her son comes and hits her, and she gets taken away. And then you realize that is like, she's one of Sailor's ancestors. And you're like, oh my God, this is so much bigger. And then especially when they find the rooted ones down like underneath, and they're these huge subterranean things, you're like, oh my God, how long has this been going on? Like, this is insane. I can't
even think about the rooted ones.
Oh yeah,
physically crawling out of my skin.
I know, it's really good.
So well done.
But
the design of the witches, the actual witches, is so well done. The eyes on like one side of the face, like a flounder, and the
I was gonna say, I can't look at flounder
like
the same way.
Long bones. They're they're not small. They're really long and kind of stringy looking, but they're terrifying. And they kind of look like Venom, but like if Venom had been hit with some acid and decay and was a zombie and had his two eyes on the one side of his head. Like,
oh, so he looks like Carnage. Good.
Yeah.
No, so there's a thing, you were talking about the design of the witches. This is a thing that I noticed too, because like Scott Snyder is one of those guys that works with really, really good artists. Like, he's lucky enough to always have really good artists drawing his stories. Like Brian K. Vaughan's another good example. But the way that they draw his stories, he'll pick artists with like a Raphael Albuquerque that actually have really rough, really imperfect styles. And I like it because it's like the story itself is so visceral and grim that it's like there was no artist. The images were just conjured into being by the story itself. Yeah, they feel really cool.
So intertwined and so closely related that there's a deep amount of cohesion there. And you're so enveloped in the story because you don't see any like, discontinuities. Like the one thing that I think of like a lot, is because I had to read the Black Panther comic by Ta-Nehisi Coates for school because I took a global politics radical comics class, which was awesome. And
You might even say it was radical.
so we had a whole thing where we were decolonizing the Marvel Universe and stuff. And so we watched Black Panther and then we read the comic and everybody was so confused because the words, the story, the imagery, like the images were so stark in contrasting and like the shadows, you couldn't tell who was who and what was what and what the facial expressions were.
Yes.
And the words were like, you had to read everything 4 times in order to understand it. And even then you didn't understand it. And that's nothing against Ta-Nehisi Coates. It's just,
of course, no.
Writing a comic
Or
book
against the artist,
with illustrations
is really good.
It's a whole different type of a style and an energy. But like the Wytches, like the words and stuff are as closely in relationship to the art as the art is with the words. You know, like when you hear like a crash, like the word, like the letters are spread out and there's like the circle effect of like the acid wash, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully done.
So there's an image, I'm trying to find it. Where is it? It's the one where you find out why Sailor's mom is in a wheelchair, and it's because she ran into one of the witches. Oh, here it is. Just like this image of like the thing screaming and like everything is like hazy and weird and creepy. That's another thing that I thought of too, because Ryley and I have both read Hellboy. Which I think it's safe to say it's probably one of, if not my favorite comic book. Like it's right up there with Multiversity, honestly. And
you and Multiversity,
dude,
don't get you started on Multiversity.
Oh, don't get me started. I love it. I love it so much. No, so but Hellboy, I find it funny that like the story about the big red demon in a trench coat punching monsters is actually really like gothic and stark and minimalist. But the one about the little girl who's afraid in the woods is really intense and crazy and weird. Honestly, I thought this would be more like The Witch, the Robert Eggers joint. It actually reminds me a lot of Uncut Gems, in my opinion.
I haven't seen that one yet. That's the one with Adam Sandler, right?
Yes. Well, the whole movie, I won't say too much. The whole movie is just this nervous, manic craziness. And I realized this is a very nervous, manic, crazy book.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. There's a lot of anxiety and a lot of like...
And the main character even has anxiety. It's part of her thing. It's so good. But like, there's this feeling of like you are on the edge of a knife the entire time. And you as unpleasant as it is to be there, you don't want to leave because there's a sheer drop on either side. Something like that.
I do also have to say I really appreciate the storyline of her dad being like a recovering alcoholic. Like,
which again is another Stephen King thing too.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, talking about The Shining. We got to talk about The Shining one of these episodes because I have so much to say.
We will.
We have an incredible amount to say. But like, you know, there's absolutely no reason for her dad, like for the story's sake, for her dad to have a background of alcoholism or for him to be recovering alcoholic. It does add layers to the story, but it's not like it's necessary because the story is about Sailor as the main character. However, it does add a lot because like, you know, the Ferris wheel scene, you know, where he's like, you have to climb up here, you have to be brave. Like, you understand a lot more about how their relationship is so strained. And it was well done. So it does add, which I do appreciate. Because, I mean, you know, you could just have, like, the raging alcoholic father be like, I need this person to have had a shitty past for them to have, like, character growth. But it was actually, like, you see how he as a parent was struggling to understand how his daughter was dealing mentally with anything. And he was like, I want to fix her. I'm going to make her confront her fears. And it's like, that's not what you do with people with anxiety. Thanks, kid. That sucked. But anyways.
So yeah, Ryley, what are your thoughts on Wytches as a whole, as an entity?
I think I definitely enjoyed it a lot more reading it all as one in one sitting. There's something to be said on that for a lot of books. Just that I think a lot of it is because that energy that it has, that manic anxiety that this book has to it, is something that you have to not cut into pieces. You have to experience it
Yes.
all at once.
Yes,
Like
definitely.
watching a film or something. You want to watch it or see it from the front to the back all at once. And I think, you know, a lot is to be said about the artwork here. Jock has such a just manic style in itself that works so perfectly for this, because even in the quieter scenes, his jagged artwork still has that feeling to it of violence and just disorder, even when he's just showing people, you know, at the kitchen table or something. Like it
Yeah.
still has that feeling. So you, like, you know, like was stated, you're on the edge of a knife, like just sitting there, and you know it can just tip at any point. So as a whole, I think it's definitely a work that I do appreciate it. And like I said, a lot more now in the second reading, because when I was reading it bit by bit, just every issue coming out every
Yeah.
month or
Yeah.
after, I don't remember if there was delays or anything between, you you lose that that feeling and that momentum. And that's
Yeah.
what it has when it's all at once, is that momentum. And that's so important.
Mhm.
And I think that there are a lot of people who experienced it only in single issues that have not gone back and read it in one sitting. And I think those people owe it to themselves to revisit this,
Definitely.
because it is such a good experience the other way.
It is tasty.
Oh, definitely. That kind of reminds me of and Emma, you were talking about how like there was that disconnect between like the art and the words in Black Panther.
Mhm.
This kind of goes into what I like about both East of West and also the middle era of Hellboy. So East of West is drawn by Nick Dragata, and it's written by Jonathan Hickman. And there is this implied motion in every line that Nick Dragata puts to the page, right? Like I didn't really like Black Panther by Ta-Nehisi Coates, primarily because it was just a bunch of old people talking about politics. Whereas I really
Which
liked
can
East
be
of
good,
West.
but it didn't really.
And the thing about East of
really
West
pan
is
out.
that he'll draw it in such a way that, like, you know, there is so much motion coming out of their forms and stuff. And so even people sitting at a table, you can feel them moving in the space.
Yeah.
But there's another thing too that I like about middle Hellboy era art, which is like it isn't like the best, but that roughness does add so much to the story. Like just a random person's face looks weird and oblong and creepy. So when the monsters show up, they're just these horrifying, red-eyed, like dead-faced things. Like it's really good. I feel the way about a lot of comics, Riley, that like they work so much better as like one story. A lot of like superhero books, I think, are written to be kind of like episodic. Like Mark Waid's Daredevil works really well, I think, in singles. And even when you're reading it, it feels like you're binging a TV show, not like you're reading one book. But then there's some books like Kingdom Come is one where, like, you know, if you read it all the way through, it is a movie. You know what I mean? And that's something that I really appreciated about Wytches is that like it's incredibly cohesive, and they made it volume 1, so like I'm not sure what's going to happen with it from here on out. It's been a while since he published this, but I trust him to know that, like, you know, given that, I mean, especially given that like he's really busy basically writing everything at DC right now, so like whatever happens after this, I do trust him to like make it cool and big and stuff. Maybe it'll cross over with the Dark Multiverse. Who knows?
That'd be crazy.
The Batman who laughs, but he fights the witches. Actually, wait, no, I would
also
read
Jock
that.
art.
Amazing.
Yeah, again, yeah. The Batman who laughs is also Jock art. But the Batman who laughs is okay. So you know how there's the multiverse. Well,
Yes.
there's a dark multiverse, and there's Batman, but oh, he's bad. Batman, he's the Joker, and he's evil, and he looks either like a heavy metal frontman or a man who's into BDSM to an unhealthy degree. Look him up. He's called the Batman Who Laughs. He's really cool. But
like if Batman was in Hellraiser.
Yes. Oh my God, totally.
I'm sorry,
I mean,
I can't not think of Batman and assless chaps. That's the only image that's in my head right now.
Oh,
Sorry,
God.
you put that image in my head, and now
Hang
I
on a
have to
second.
live with it.
Wait, I need to look up. Is that a thing? Batman.
It probably is.
in
Batman and assless chaps.
Assless.
I mean, if you look up Batman's
chaps.
penis, you will find it. Unfortunately, we all know that Batman's penis was exposed. That got brought up in my comics class. We're all mature.
That was like the hot topic in our comic group
It
for like
was!
a solid week. There were so many jokes about it. My
Penis
favorite was
jokes.
actually I said it, so I'm tooting my own horn here. But somebody was like, "What do we call his penis?" And I'm like, "We call it Batman's Rick," because they recently changed Dick Grayson's name to Rick Grayson. So I'm like, "Oh, you gave us many opportunities for lulls here." Oh,
I remember when that issue came out and In Stock Trades still had stock of the original with the Batawang present.
Yeah.
And so on our live show that night, we were discussing it, and I was like, "Oh, and by the way, like anyone who's watching, In Stock Trade still has copies." And we got a message the next day from Emily over there, like,
Yeah.
"Y'all, like, you have no idea how many orders we got." And I had to send her an apology. I was like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that would have that kind of domino effect."
Okay,
At
so
least
Emma,
I got money, like whatever.
Right? Yeah.
so Emma, so In Stock Trades is it is the comic book website that everybody in the group
boy.
uses, and by that I mean we are like everyone, like every person who visits that site, I bet is from this specific comic book group
Wow.
because like it sells out instantly, and
That
it's
checks
like
out.
yeah, I mean totally. So yeah, there's another thing that I think is really cool where like despite how manic it is, there are actually some really subtle moments. Like there's the part where Sailor has just like Reggie just got like abducted by the witches in that really like chilling scene where like his eyes are messed up and he doesn't know what's going on. And like the sheriff is like, well, look, I mean, like she ran away. She'll be back in a few days. Let's just let it die down. And then the mom, who like we all know is the person who pledged her. The mom
Now
is
we
like,
know.
now we know. Now we know. Like,
First of all, can I just say I did not see that plot twist coming at all.
oh
And
no,
I am humbled by how taken aback I was in that moment. I can typically spot a plot twist coming from a mile away, but they did a very good job. That was like Get Out level whiplash. Like, no, not you. I know you. That's not fair. You can't be the bad guy. I trust you.
I was gonna say, speaking of things we don't talk about. Oh, geez, that was a good twist. Oh my God,
I can't give you the keys, babe.
Oh God. Oh jeez. Oh no. Ooh. I think the only other thing that did anything like that gave me that like visceral physical reaction was the ending of Animal Farm. Like I remember reading it and being like covered in chills. I was like, ooh. Oh, that's really good.
Some animals are more equal than others.
Yes. Some animals are more equal than others.
Stop.
Have you read Morrison's Animal Man?
No.
Oh, I haven't, but I really, really want to.
There's a scene in the middle of that had that reaction. Like it's the twist of the whole thing, and it's something so just slapped me in the face that I read that like 10, 12 years ago, and I still remember my feelings of like when I turned the page and I was like, whoa. It's very good. It is very good.
I'll have to check it out. I do really
That's next
enjoy.
on the list. Damn it.
That is next on the list. All right, add it to the list. Oh God, keep fighting. No, there's Morrison's also one of those guys where like he'll just like swing for the freaking fences. I actually used his. I actually used my All-Star Superman to contrast Astro City in our last episode because we were talking about The Office.
Yes.
I was mentioning how like The Office is part of why the humor is so good is because it goes for broke. And that's part of what makes like a lot of Grant Morrison's books like great, like not just good, but like part of the canon of like American comic books is that like he swings for the freaking fences. And that's why even like a more even series like Astro City isn't held in like as legendary regard, I think is because you don't remember those like big giant moments. Anyway, but no, yeah, it's it is very good stuff. So yeah, but anyway, so back to what I was gonna say, which was
5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago. Welcome to ADHD the podcast. What was I talking about? Oh my God, no. Well, so she's like, she's been talking about the woods this whole time, and she got this this like bite on her neck, but there's
Wait,
a
who's
pause.
she? You're talking about Sailor, right?
Okay, yeah. So so her mom's like, oh, but she has this like bite on her neck, but there's a pause before she says bite because I think she knows what it is. It's the witch. Oh my god, what the heck is it
It's
called?
the witch eye. It's an eye, which is fucked
Yes.
up.
It is.
I hate that. Ugh! I hate it so much. It's so that they keep an eye on her, but there's literally an eye on her. Ugh, I hate it. I can't stand it.
My. Oh my god, what is
Well
that?
done.
This contact lens is your neck. My eye is my eye. I got my eye
My eye on you.
No, and then the next page you turn, there's a close-up of the sheriff's face, like his eyes, and he's like glaring daggers at Charlie Rooks, and it's like, yeah, I think you guys should just go home. She's gonna be okay. And you're like, and reading that again, I'm like, oh shit, they were planting some really subtle seeds. Like, unless you were really paying attention, you would have totally missed it. But then you go back and you read it, you're like, oof, that hits
Big
hard.
oof.
Oh my God.
Big oof.
Big oof.
I do have to say
hold up. Wytches. Big oof. All right.
I have to say the plot itself is a beautiful concept. That
Yes.
people are pledged by other people. That
Yes.
human beings have to agree that certain people will be sacrificed to appease the witches.
Yes.
And that once somebody has been pledged, like, and then that person what's their name, that they have cancer, they're bald or something?
Oh,
I don't know
jeez. I don't know if we even know their name. Hang on. Where is...
First of all, beautiful
No.
design for that character, because you find out later that they are a woman, but there's absolutely no explanation of that. And they're just kind of an amorphous, bald white person who looks really threatening and like the evil villain. However, they are the one person who actually understands what's happening and is giving an explanation and help, like, in order to prevent the things from happening.
Yes.
And, you know, that they come up with stink and pledge, like, genius. I love when people have to get covered in something in order to outsmell the bad guy. I love it.
Dude,
Because there's the anxiety of, it's gonna wash off. And that's very, very well done, in my opinion. I love that. And the very end, when she sprays the entire town with pledge.
Yes. Oh, that was so good.
Genius.
That was one of the great
like,
fuck
fuck
yeah
you,
moments.
Bitches.
One of the great fuck
Sacrifice
yeah
me,
moments
I
in comic
sacrifice you. This is great.
I'm gonna pledge Jolie. There's there's a really good panel. I mean, there's a lot of them.
They're all good panels.
They're all good panels. Oh my god, where the heck is it?
I have
this one.
things to say about them.
So Charlie is he just told Sailor to get the heck out of there, and there's witches in the house, and it's this panel right here where he's standing there, and there's a witch just peeking out from behind the corner.
Ugh.
And I'm like, because that's the kind of shit where, like, you go downstairs at like 3 a.m. because you can't sleep to get some water, and you're like, wait, hang on, I gotta be very. I knocked over Daredevil.
Wow, that could not have been more well planned. Holy shit!
That was
terrifying.
That was perfect timing. Well, no, like, you're like, wait a second, there's something might be down here. Like, I love that, and there's another. I don't know if you guys have read Wayward Pines, but there is a part where there's a creature. There's a couple creatures in the town, and there's a guy looking at security monitors, and he only ever and Blake Crouch only ever describes the monsters that are inside people's houses, like somebody like freaking out in the shower as like the monster is banging on the door, or somebody running up their stairs as the monster is right behind them. And I really like that idea that, like, there is nowhere safe. Like, you are not, and this kind of ties back to like that whole like you have always been fucked thing, right? The witches, like, we are on their territory, right? Like, we are borrowing this place to basically just feed them. They're farming us, essentially. You know, they're like, wherever you go, you will never be safe because they will always know about you. And that's something else I like about them, is that like they are set up as being like really like organic, like, sort of like they're like the logical progression of like of like supernatural, like, new age stuff, but in, like,
they don't look like, you know, like Alien from Alien versus Predator, or Like they look legitimately like evil
Yes.
evolutionized. Like
Yeah.
evolution has followed these and they have made them the epitome of evil. And as time has progressed and as their like bio line has continued, they have gotten more like that.
They're
And I
just
can't
yucky.
I can't stand it. I
appreciate
just
that.
can't stand it.
It's got to speak to their restraint, because it could have been like, oh, let's make the witches look really, really cool. Like, no, okay, let's make them look gross so you never actually want to see them. You know what I mean?
But also they never show them in their totality.
Yes.
I
yes,
was
yes, 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 yes.
searching through the issue, and I was thankfully able to read all of it in one go, like you were saying, Ryley, which I love doing that. I do not like waiting in between things. We are of the binging generation, and we appreciate
Yes.
continuity. But so, I read the whole thing, and I would just sit and stare at the pages with the actual witches on them, trying to discern the shapes, because all of the shapes are like, there are shadows, and I'm like, no, but what's the shape inside the shadow? And I couldn't. It's so hard to see, but they do that on purpose because they don't want you to ever feel like you know fully what you're looking at. And it's like, damn you, you've cultivated something beautiful and I can't stare at it.
That might actually be. It just occurred to me. Maybe like
It's very
that,
well
like
done.
that, like splotchiness that's on all the
Yeah.
pages. That might not just be a thing that, I mean, it is a thing that Jock did because he thought it would look cool, and it does. But it might also just be like, that might be like a thing that the witches do. Like maybe the reason why you never see them isn't just because like Snyder and Jock wanted to make them mysterious, but maybe it's because the witches themselves were like, they have ways of being invisible. They have ways of not being seen. And that's why it's so easy for these like really gigantic humanoid creatures to go unseen for, hang on a second. Okay.
Dab.
Yeah, the witches didn't want me to talk too much about them, so they made me sneeze.
I feel like there's definitely like that sort of acid wash. It also feels like when, how like people who took photographs of the big nuclear mass in Chernobyl, like from down hallways and stuff, like all of the photographs degraded and destroyed themselves over time because they had been exposed to radiation. That's kind of what I feel like the pages are like the acid wash. I
never thought of that. Yeah,
like it looks like everything's decaying, and that was actually a big problem I had with the book. I told you this, Des, when I was first reading it. I was like, I can't see anything. There's too much effect in the way. Just take the effect out.
Turn up the brightness.
I was literally
turn up
like,
the brightness.
God, I can't read. I can't even see what's happening because there's too much. Like, just chop out the noise. But I do appreciate, after having finished it, that artistic. I don't advocate for that to be gone now. Just at the time, I was very angsty because I couldn't fucking see it. But it's very, very well done. I was just,
Yeah.
It is definitely a Jock thing that he does in like a lot of his books, but it's very it's a very different type of wash over his art on this one. It has like the kind of gross blues and greens over it that give it a very specific feeling, as opposed to the way that he does that type of wash on other books. So
it feels like very much like the like hues of bruising and like decay and stuff, like very, very morbid and corpse-like, which I appreciate because that's really the plot of the book is to inspire those feelings of like mortuary-esque things. And you're both stroking your beard together at the same time.
Yes, that's what we do. We have
deep in thought.
Contemplating important things like
okay,
grown men touching each other.
I have to say something.
You have to say many things.
Destroying my brain.
That's the point of the show, Emma. You have to say things. Now shut up and say things.
You're ready? That last little, like, the last and yet the first story about the brother who, you are the person, by the way, you, the reader, are the person. I can't emphasize how much that freaked me out more than the entire book. That story alone, which was just like a pilot, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
But it comes after everything. That freaked me out really badly. Mainly for the reasons that her brother, you are the sister, and her brother,
Yes.
A, pledges her child, B, lured her into the house so that the child could, so that the witch could come in. You see the witch in the corner of your eye because you're paralyzed after eating the sandwich or drinking the drink or something. And he touches her chest and says, don't worry, like your body shows that you can make another child. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go kill myself. That was so much. I literally cannot breathe. Wow. I need to just sit here. Thank God Des and Jess aren't here, because I need to just sit here and disassociate for probably 5 hours, and otherwise I'd look like I was,
Crazy.
having a psychotic breakdown.
I'll be totally honest. Okay, so the
wow.
line of dialogue that he says is, they said if the right side didn't rot, you can have more, and you can have more. And I was like, wait, so is he going to give her more of like the fluid to keep the witches away? And then I was like, oh, okay.
He's talking about her breasts.
He's talking. So I think she has like
Don't
breast
like
cancer or
that.
something. So he doesn't
Don't
want her to
like
die. So then he sacrifices her child to the witches. But then she looks at the witches and they're like, oh, crap. She broke the rules. Now we have to kill her. Why are these the rules? I don't know. We made them up. We're bored. All we do is eat people. It's really boring.
No, but the worst part is that it's not just that she looks at the witches so she has to die. It's that you looked at the witches so you have to die.
Yes.
Because the point of view of that part of the comic is you are the
There's okay, so did you read like the little like blurby thing at the end where like he explains how he came up with the idea for witches? Yeah.
I can't remember it, but
okay, so I vaguely remember it. So he and his friend used to like
have it right there
at night. Well, I know, but I'm not going to just sit here silently reading for 20 minutes like while we're filming an episode, right?
I didn't know it was 20 minutes long. My bad.
Okay, but maybe I'm going to get distracted. We've
blurb.
both established that staying on topic is not our strong suit.
It's not one of our strong suits.
It's not one of our strong suits.
Okay, tell the story.
So he and his friend were hanging out. There was this like abandoned like truck out in the woods, and he would hang out with his friend.
Tasty, we love that.
And so they're talking. Things. Well, so they're talking. This is when they were kids, and they're talking. And so then his friend stops and goes, "Hey, can I help you, buddy?" And they look around, and they're like, "Oh, I thought I saw someone." And then they're like, "Let's go back inside." And so like it's all these years later. He comes back when he's like grown. He's got a family and stuff. And he goes to his childhood home, and he goes to that part of the woods. And it's like, it might have just been a tree. Like, it looked like it was somebody peeking out from behind a tree. And then he looks up, and he sees a tree get blown just so. And it looks like there was this tall, lanky thing in the woods staring at him. And he was like, that's a freaking story. That's a story. And that's why he wrote, that's the spark that inspired Wytches. And then he just took it to 11 because he's Scott Snyder, and that's what he likes to do.
That's the coolest thing about authors when they make you afraid. It's because they are writing their fears out of their mind.
Yes,
they're writing their fears into existence, but out of their mind.
And then they burn them. They kill them with fire. It's great.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's wonderful.
So yeah, Ryley, you've read many more comic books than any of us are ever going to read. What are some other really creepy, cool comic books that people that like witches might be into?
Snyder himself has, of course, I mentioned American Vampire.
Yeah,
that one's really great.
That one's really good too.
He did, and it's been years since I've read this one, but there's another horror comic I remember really liking called Severed that he did.
I feel like I've heard about Severed.
I'm trying to like look through at my library and see. What I was going to actually mention before was the Nailbiter series. Have you read that one?
I have not read Nailbiter, but I've heard many good things about it.
So like basically the description is it's kind of like a procedural cop type thing in a town that is known to breed serial killers. And the famous serial killer at the moment is one who like kills people and bites their nails. So that's why it's
Oh.
called Nailbiter.
Oh, no.
Chris.
Oh, God.
And along the way, they enlist a killer to help them in finding someone. And there's this whole, it does kind of go into that, like you were saying earlier about the Lovecraftian type, everything's fucked. It's that, like, you've always been fucked. It's that kind of feeling in this town. So that one I feel like y'all would really enjoy. The series is complete, but they started up again with like Nailbiter Returns or something like that. That's continuing the story.
So like,
real quick, when you say the town breeds serial killers, do you mean people are intentionally doing it, or just a lot of serials tend to come from this area? Because
they tend to come from that area. Like, it's just some sort of weird coincidence. And I think that's a lot of what the story is about, is them trying to find out why is this town so, like, prominent for having serial killers come out of it.
That's tasty.
It's cool. Some good shit.
Freaky shit.
Basically, every, like, really, really cool series that, like, Image puts out is worth reading, honestly. They tend to strike gold more often than not.
Okay. I'm trying to, like, browse
He's
my
moving.
library and take a
Somebody moving
glance
on this show. That's a first.
Podcast is on the move.
Yeah. Wow. Oh,
I
dude, you
have-
legit have a library now. Wow.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah, I have
Yes.
a divider in the middle of my room.
Oh, that's so smart. Hey, Des,
Um,
that's yours. We all have the same
I know.
thing. I'm looking at it right now in my room. We all have the
Yay!
same cubby organizer.
Woo! Actually,
Here.
so this is like a cube, and then this is an extra shelf that I got specifically
Mhm.
for my CDs and my tapes. So, yeah.
I got the divider for the middle because I was like, I need more space, but it also makes it actually feel more like an actual library.
It
Yeah, it
does.
really
Like an
does.
aisle here.
I like that. Nice.
You should have like a little like a motion sensor activated thing that goes shh when you walk by. That'd be even more perfect.
That'd be great. You should like lock all of your books behind like a door that requires like a card scanner or something.
Oh my god.
You know what else Snyder did that the entirety of this character's history would be great for anyone who loves horror is Swamp Thing.
Yeah. Actually, I think I don't have one of his. I have one of Charles Soule's issues. I picked it up on its own a while back.
What is Swamp Thing? That sounds intriguing.
It is.
So
That's a good question, Emma. What the heck is Swamp Thing?
there's a scientist who works
here we go.
in like
Emma, this is Swamp Thing.
botany and whatnot,
Tasty.
and
Very cool.
he
Beautiful.
gets mixed up in some stuff, and basically his body is blown into the swamp, and something happens that makes
no.
it combine with the different plant life in the swamp, and he's reborn as the Swamp Thing. And then this hardcover is of Snyder's run itself. He does a 18 issue, I think, run on there.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's actually getting re-released as an omnibus alongside Soul's run, so that will be
Oh, cool.
But his run is very much horror oriented, which you'd expect from Snyder for him to do that, and it also ties in with Jeff Lemire's Animal Man run.
Oh, okay.
Because Swamp Thing is the avatar of the green, which is like the force behind all of plant life, whereas Animal Man is the avatar of the red, which is the force behind all animal life in the world. And they're coming together to fight off against the rot, which is all of the dead life in the world.
Damn.
That's one of my favorite tropes in,
What a tasty
in all of
relationship.
media. It is. It's very tasty. Well,
I can't stop saying tasty. I'm sorry.
that's fine, dude. Tasty is the word of the day. I mean, and the witches do literally eat people, so tasty, very tasty.
Lookable.
Totally. Well, that's one of my other favorite tropes in comic books is there are all different colors of things. So
Yes.
like, like
The Rainbow Brigade.
the Rainbow Brigade.
It's like She-Ra, but
A little bit
gentler.
less, but yeah, it's like She-Ra, but like nowhere near as gay.
But wait, you guys, I just had a realization about the witches. What if the
What if?
person in the witches, who we don't know their name, but they have cancer and they have all the explanations and they're helping everybody. What if that's the sister from the original short? What if she didn't die? Is she somehow lived and she does have cancer and she managed to survive and like said, "Fuck y'all! I'm gonna learn all the secrets and I'm gonna expose you and I'm gonna make sure these people get out."
She was sacrificed. She was pledged as a kid, though, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe
he just like wanted to bring that around. Like, I want cancer representation.
That's fair.
Fuck anybody who says otherwise. Fuck you.
He was like, John Green will not take this away from me.
John Green, no.
No. Fault in Our Stars, more like the witches in my trees.
Right. Cupcakes and strippers all the way down. Oh, I should have mentioned that for the Office episode. I forgot about that.
Turtles all the way stripper. What? No, hang on.
No.
What?
Turtles all the way down. Cupcakes and strippers all the way down.
Which actually reminds me, I just finished reading An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. You should read that, Emma. It's very good. It's sort of it's like, what if what happened to you involved aliens? That's all I'll say.
Bro, half the books I read are just like that.
Yes, aliens might not be invading our planet, but they are invading our books. So there you go. Oh man. Okay.
Better late than never.
Take me, please. You can have it. You have all of it. No. All right. Well, I think we'll come around to closing thoughts. Closing thoughts on whatever you want to close on. I don't care.
Well, this book is delicious. I mean, it's freaky as shit. And like the main character gets to save the bad guy, like, you know, the bully in her year or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, like, I have many things to say about bullying tropes, but, you know, at least, you know, the main character, like, legitimately has anxiety and is able to, like, help somebody who had been making fun of them for their anxiety. And it's like, fuck you, I can do this.
Yes.
And, like, the anxiety representation in the daughter, like, also beautifully done and, like, accurate as hell. And I mean, like, yeah, anxiety is debilitating, but it's also really debilitating when there's a good reason for it. Like, witches are eating everybody in your town. Like,
yes,
thank you.
Definitely. That's another thing, too, that I appreciate about it is that, like, Sailor never gets on anxiety. Do you know? Like, that's a really, that's a trope that I don't like.
She never gets, like, cured or stuff.
Yes,
like, that's disgusting.
Her arc is learning how to have anxiety.
Cope with it.
Yeah, well,
how to deal with it.
Yes,
what
definitely.
to listen to, what not to listen to, what is worth freaking out about, what is not worth freaking out about, as
Indeed.
if you even choose, but still.
Yes. Okay, Ryley, your closing thoughts on whatever.
Well, I wish I had a tangent to go off on since you said whatever. Just be like, talk about my favorite sandwiches.
Talking about tea and how you brew it in a microwave or a tea kettle.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Can we go like a quick crash course of like all of like the inside jokes in like the Omnibus Collectors group?
My favorite, I will tell you, my absolute favorite is the time that one guy showed off his haul.
Yes.
It was someone else's picture, and the guy came in and was like, "That's my picture," and the original poster is like, "No, it's not. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, here, I posted it to Reddit like 3 years ago." And then he starts showing pictures around his apartment. He's like, "That's my table. You can see those back over there. You can see this over here." And the guy like would not give up. He just kept doubling down and saying like, "No, you're lying. You're lying." And he's like, "This is the most ridiculous thing." Yeah, and that was probably my favorite thing.
I love
that's
like
beautiful.
People started jumping in and like screen capping other people's collection videos and going, "Guys, look at my books!" And why is Ryley standing in front of them?
Yeah, they put like me in front of those books or something, and it was like, now he's claiming it. That was one of my that one, and then the when the Akira box set was the thing.
Yes, Shakira, the Shakira box set.
Exactly. Yeah, they put Shakira on it instead of Akira.
Oh.
It was the Shakira box set. I think
beautiful.
one of my favorites, because I didn't let it go for the longest time, was so there's a writer named Garth Ennis, and Ryley probably knows what I'm talking about. He writes he wrote the original comic that The Boys is based off of. He writes a lot of really like horrible people that do terrible things, and somebody I forget like how exactly it originated, but somebody was going off about how like if you like those books, you have no morals. And so for like a week, everybody was like, I have no morals. You have no morals. And I started posting like Spanish Inquisition memes all over the place. I still love it every time to this day. Like anytime somebody mentions Garth Ennis, I'm like, you are a sinner, a heathen. No. Like
it was innocuous at first because the guy like started going along with the jokes, and we would be like, oh, Garth Ennis, no morals, and like he would and say it and like laugh about it, but then like he went to someone's like personal messages and attacked them, and then I was like, I got alerted about it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to remove this dude from the group because that's not appropriate.
And
like,
the plot twist was that he had no morals.
Exactly.
Oh no! Wait, is The Boys that did it become that movie with Will Smith and the orc and their cops? Was that or was I don't know at all what that movie's called, but
that was Bright. You don't want to watch Bright. Oh my God, no.
What's that called? That movie? What is it called?
It's called Bright. It's really bad. You shouldn't watch it.
No, I didn't, but Carrie was watching it, and I was thinking of it because I think I asked Carrie, what's this called, and I think he said The Boys or something. I don't know, but I remember it because, and it's always on my mind, because he was watching it the morning I went to go get my wisdom teeth taken out, and I had for years been freaking out about the possibility of saying something while like on Novocaine or whatever and destroying my whole future relationship with my family because I said something inappropriate or whatever. But when I got out, I wouldn't shut up about classism and how in that movie they were pitting Will Smith against this orc because like they wanted Will Smith to rat out this orc because he was an orc. It was racism, but also classism because they were like, you have a little girl, don't you want her to go to a good school? And I'm like, stop using this to manipulate him. Just pay him a good amount. So upset on the car ride home.
So when Emma, this really reveals like if you were to boil us down to the kernel of our being, this explains us because like
I would be crying about colonialism.
That was Emma's reaction. That's how Emma was
talking about the powers that be.
On Novocaine.
Meanwhile,
when I had my wisdom teeth out, my mom was helping me get out of the car, and I started going, I know you.
I walked with you once upon a dream.
And I was just making
started becoming a Disney princess again.
She was just like, yeah, he's fine. He's back.
You just like sat on the couch all day with your cheeks out to here, like.
Yeah.
And I was like, hi, Des, are you cool? And he was like, what?
I couldn't hear or even feel anything. No.
I have great pictures of me after my cheeks are all huge and stuff. I got like 2 different bandanas tied together to keep the ice, but my tongue is out and I'm like, it's just a great picture. I have a great series of pictures. I don't even know how to describe them, but they're wonderful.
When's that exhibit coming to MoMA?
I can tweet it and it'll be there next week. No problem.
You could. There'll be like a socially distanced look at Emma Gonzalez's wisdom teeth.
I'll just be like, throwback. If you want something to laugh at, here's my face.
They'll be like, is this Emma Gonzalez or is it Harpo Marx? We don't know, but we'll find out. All right. Well, Ryley, thank you so much for joining us on this fine day, which was sort of about witches, but also about everything. Tune in next time where, like, I don't know what we're going to be talking about next time, Emma, but whatever you're talking about, I'm going to be talking about The Mummy Returns. I have to talk about that movie.
Okay, you talk about that. I really want to talk about The Shining, but I'll find something else that pairs better with The Mummy.
Okay, you can talk about Jurassic Park 3 and why that is your favorite Jurassic Park movie, and we can, because they're both
not my favorite Jurassic Park movie. It's my second favorite Jurassic Park movie.
Okay, well, we can discuss.
The first one is the best because it started everything.
Of course, and it also.
We'll talk about Jurassic Park.
All right, everyone, take care of yourselves. And we'll see you next week at some point. I don't know. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. And do I stop recording?